Ryan, say something witty for the opening.
Something witty for the opening. Don't have anything witty.
Really?
Really?
You were mouthing off to me earlier.
Well, you're easy to lip off.
Welcome to AT Banter, the podcast where we discuss anything and everything regarding the world of assistive technology. With our hosts, Steve Barkley, Rob Minot, and Ryan Fleury. Now, let's banter.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of AT Banter.
Banter.
Whoa, what we got clashing
Echo.
banters. What's going
Reverb.
on? Didn't you guys work this out before in the rehearsals?
No.
Rehearsal? What's that?
Wait, was there a rehearsal?
I don't know. I missed the note.
That would explain it. Explain why I was sitting alone in my living room last night.
Lost in my living room.
No, that's because you can't get a girl.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Named Kitty Cat.
Jenny, meow. Hey, so busy show today, so we should probably launch right into things. But before we do, we should just mention what we're doing today. Ryan,
Rob,
what are we doing today?
we are speaking with Idan Meir from a company called Right Here, which I believe is an indoor navigation app.
It certainly is. You are correct, sir.
Yay.
See what happens when you come to the rehearsals?
I love it when he knows the guest he's booked.
That's right. But what we should get right into was, of course, the big event of the week, which was yesterday's Apple event. Which
Pretty predictable.
Yeah, Steve's
yawn.
underwhelmed.
A lot of the rumors had already told us what was coming.
Yeah. But I will say, you live streamed the event, Mr. Ryan.
Live tweeted. Yes. Attempted to.
Yeah, that was cool. That was a good go.
Yep. So I think we should do the same for the Google event next month.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe get together on Skype and discuss it and tweet it. And
Sounds good.
excellent.
That could be entertaining.
But
Can you hear the excitement in my voice?
Absolutely.
But no, okay. Let's mention a few things here that I think that are highlights. Or well, you know what? Let's just turn it over to Ryan. What was your general impression of the event?
Again, it was pretty lackluster. A lot of the rumors that have been out since their June event came to fruition. So there's a new Apple TV 4K, which has, of course, 4K and high dynamic range. And that was it for the Apple TV announcements. No announcements on iPads or Macs or anything like that. It was all about iPhone.
Right. So they announced basically 3 new models of iPhone, correct?
Yep, the 8, the 8 Plus, and the 10.
And of course, the 10 is the item that's getting the most press right now. That was sort of their big announcement, right?
Yeah, I think because it's the 10th anniversary of the iPhone, they made a big splash about the new iPhone 10. I think we're going to see in the coming days and weeks that a lot of people aren't going to pay that $1,000 price tag for pretty much the same features in the iPhone 8 or 8 Plus.
And that's $1,000 US.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
$1,500 here.
Yeah. Pretty expensive.
Yeah, very expensive. But
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Essentially, they released a Galaxy S8,
Yes.
right? I mean,
Pretty much. Now, they do have AR built in, which I don't believe the S8 does yet because Google's just announced their AR kit. So there's some AR,
what's AR, Ryan?
augmented reality.
Oh,
Yes.
so I can get that with a 6-pack. I don't
Yeah.
need to spend $1,500.
yeah, me
That's
too.
true.
Like $32 on a bottle of Jameson, and I'm augmented all I need.
Yeah.
No, and they also have what do they call an edge-to-edge glass, right? So there's no actual frame. The screen fills the entire phone, but
Who cares?
That's kind of the theme this year in phones. The LG
Right.
G6 has a really small bezel. The S8 has a really small bezel. The Google Pixel event coming in October is probably bezel-less.
right.
It's just following what everybody else has done so far.
The other big announcement, of course, the facial recognition unlocking of the phone.
Who cares?
Yeah, I think the interesting part of that is they said it grows with you or it adjusts with you. So even if you're wearing glasses or if you grow a beard, it'll make that transition and still recognize you. They said that there's approximately a 1 in 1 million chance of it being spoofed. So photographs of you shouldn't work. But again, all this is going to come out once people have it in their hands,
Right.
and do some thorough testing on it.
You think
Interesting.
think it would work with Caitlyn Jenner?
I don't know.
Sorry, Caitlin.
I'm sure she has one, or will get one.
But that feature is, it occurred to me is that's really the only feature that stood out to me in terms of having any sort of accessibility implications, because the only thing you could really say about that is that it could actually come in handy for people who have limited mobility as another way to unlock their phone.
No, because they also got rid of the home button on the phone.
Yes.
And even during the live stream event, it didn't work for them the first time they did the Face ID. So basically the way it works is you hold the phone up to your face, it unlocks, and then you have to swipe up to get to your home screen. So you're still adding
really?
a gesture.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so it's not just a matter of looking at your phone and it unlocks. It unlocks, but to get to your home screen, you still have to do a swipe up gesture.
I see. And that swipe up gesture too, getting rid of the home button, I think is going to be very controversial.
Yeah.
That home button has been a feature of smartphones since their inception.
They've included a button on the side now, which is your Siri button. And, maybe they'll give you the ability to program that to do something else. But Apple's usually been pretty locked down. And, that home button has always been a physical button somebody could touch.
That's right.
The S8 and other phones have gone to a capacitive home button. So it's kind of under the screen. So it's still there. And a lot of people like that. So
Yeah, one of the things I like about my Android phone is that it's got 3 buttons instead of just one.
yeah.
So I've got some additional functions that are easily accessible. Having no buttons makes no sense to me.
Yeah. I would agree. I think that's going to be one of the most controversial decisions. But I mean, we said the same thing about, the lack of a headphone port in the iPhone 7s. And,
gosh darn it, we were right.
We were right, but I mean, people still bought it. I mean, at the end of the day, people will roll with it.
That's because Apple is a cult.
Well, and that was kind of my decision when I got rid of my Galaxy S5 and went to an LG G6. I was looking at the G6 and I was looking at the Galaxy S8. I was like, do I really want a dongle for headsets? Do I really want to, risk losing it or breaking it?
Yep.
And one of my choices was to get the phone that still had a headphone jack.
Right.
And, that's why I chose that. And that's the nice thing with Android is you have choice. With iOS, you get what they give you.
Right.
And you like it.
Well, yeah, fanboys seem to like it.
Now, they also announced on the Apple Watch that the new versions will now have cellular features.
You can now
what do you
make
think about that?
You can now make and receive calls on your phone, as long as, of course, you have your cell plan.
Now, but I remember...
On your phone or on your watch?
They say, though, it's a different SIM. So the SIM in your phone will not work in the watch. And I tweeted it, I forget, it's an electronic type SIM, whatever that means. But you can still use your existing phone number from your phone. So you're still probably going to have to pay whatever it costs to activate the SIM on the watch, $10 a month or whatever your provider sells you the activation for. But you can't just swap SIM cards out.
But I mean, I remember when the Apple Watch first came out and we talked about this, that was one of the things that we were kind of like, well, that's kind of lame that, it just connects to your phone and you still need your phone on you in order to make calls through it. Now you don't. So I don't know. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's moving the watch technology forward. That's more Dick Tracy stuff. That's cool.
Yeah, if only they. I'm waiting for the iShoe, so we can be like Get Smart and like talk on our shoe.
Well, we'll see what kind of impact that has on battery life too. If you're using the maps for GPS on your watch and you're using the phone and you've got your accelerometers and your gyrometers and it's counting your steps and your heartbeat and all this other stuff going on. Are you still going to get a day's worth of battery? Tough to say.
It is tough to say, but I mean, I will say that I think that out of all the announcements that I read, I thought that the Apple Watch stuff was actually the stuff where they're actually really moving forward. I mean, the iPhone stuff, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, there's, it's one of these incremental improvements. It's not lighting the world on fire in terms of the changes coming. Even if you're really excited about the Face ID unlocking, which I don't know. I
think it's just going to be gimmicky myself.
Yeah, I mean,
I've used that technology before, and it's flaky, and it doesn't work in low light conditions well.
Well, they say it will, but
yeah, right.
The other thing they announced was a wireless charging mat.
Yep.
So now you can drop your Apple Watch, your phone, everything onto this mat, and it'll charge. Now, the only thing I didn't pick out of the live stream event was if it was a proprietary Apple charging mat.
Of course it is.
Of course.
Or if they're using one of the two standards, the Qi or the other one.
Oh, Ryan, you're so naive.
No,
I mean, come on. Do you really think that it's going to be not proprietary?
I don't know.
Of course it is.
I don't know. You got to look.
I'm not as cynical when it comes to Apple as Steve, and even I had to roll my eyes at that one. Come on.
I'm Googling right now.
But in relation to that, they also announced that I think both the 8s and the 10, they're going to have glass back.
Yep.
In order to do that.
Yeah. Supposedly my G6 does too.
Yeah, I don't know about that decision. That might be a bad design decision because I know they say that it's it's very durable glass, but it's still glass, and I mean it's still one more thing that's going to be able to break on them.
My phone I got on the 2nd, and I dropped it a couple days while I had it.
This is my
LG G6.
Okay.
And it's a glass front and back as well.
Okay.
And it fell out of my pocket onto the floor. And it's like, okay, I'm getting a case.
Yeah.
So I just got a regular transparent kind of a bumper type case.
Right.
Just to protect it a little bit. But supposedly these charging mats will still charge through the case, depending on the type of case it is.
All right.
Okay, so from TechCrunch.com, paraphrasing here, the AirPower Mat uses a new kind of charging standard that supports multi-device charging, which might explain why it's not shipping right away.
There you go. Proprietary Apple.
Yeah.
You were right.
Cha-ching.
Another moneymaker.
Yep. And the other weird thing that I noticed that they were talking about was this idea of turning all the Apple stores into like town squares and like having I don't know. That really struck me as bizarre.
Well, I think they want to get people into the stores to, I forget the word. I can't think of the word I want.
Sell.
But,
indoctrinate?
Well, sell, but also get your hands on the devices, be able to talk to somebody about your devices. A little bit more than the Apple stores now. You go to an Apple store now, I had to make an appointment to take my Apple TV in. And, granted, they were really gracious and really courteous and really quick. But I think if you make it more of an experience, people may come. Like how many people flock to Starbucks?
Yeah, but that's because they give us coffee.
Yeah, they have coffee.
Maybe they will at Apple.
Shop. It's not.
Maybe they will at Apple. They talked about having musicians
ridiculous.
as well.
Oh, come on.
They did. They talked about having music and art.
This is so stupid. That is stupid. Like, honestly, come on. You're not a town square. You're a store. Like, if anything, turn Victoria's Secret into a town square. Then, okay.
You still wouldn't go.
Well,
I would.
I might. I'd be more inclined than go to the Apple store. Now we're all reflecting on that.
Let's combine Victoria's Secrets and the Apple Store. Then I'd totally go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Particularly if there was a Starbucks in it.
There you go.
We're getting off topic. Was there anything else that they talked about that you recall, Ryan, that stood out to you? You mentioned that they didn't really mention accessibility at all.
They didn't at all.
The whole thing.
I
right?
didn't hear the word accessible once.
That's disappointing.
Well, again, it's 2 hours. They also didn't mention the HomePod, which kind of leads me to believe there's going to be another Apple event in a month or two before Christmas, talking about the HomePod.
How could we forget about the HomePod?
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot about the HomePod.
The HomePod is their standalone speaker, like the Amazon Echo.
Oh, right.
with directional speakers and sound and better subs.
So
better
really,
bass.
really at the end of the day, it sounds like they talked about Apple TV, they talked about the Apple Watch, and they talked about the 3 new iPhones, and that was pretty much it?
Yeah, nothing about Macs, nothing about iPods, nothing about computers, iPads, none of that. And maybe that's what they do in the spring events. But so for
wow.
accessibility, definitely you have to do some research. But one of the best places I would suggest you go to is and listen to is Jonathan Moson's Blindside podcast. He had a panel of guests on his podcast yesterday talking about the Apple event and describing the slides that they were showing on screen. And
Oh, wow, fantastic.
he's also wrote a book, which he does every time there's a new version of iOS, called iOS Without the I. So it's very in-depth, very detailed, and we'll probably dive into all the features and accessibility features that are included. So
Cool. Well, we'll make
check
sure.
them out.
Yeah, we'll make sure we link to that in this week's show notes. Did they talk at all about the iOS 11?
Not in great detail from what I recall. It sounds like I think there's easier ways to get to your control center and your notifications, but they didn't go into a lot of detail.
That's weird. Yeah, it strikes me as a little odd that accessibility didn't come up once in the whole thing.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you do a comparison of the Google event that happened earlier this year in June.
It was all about accessibility.
Yeah, they actually had people from the accessibility division get up there and talk about what's new and talk back and what's coming. So maybe Apple will take notice and do it as well. Now, if we can only get rid of iTunes, everybody be happy.
Yeah, if they could. Well, I did hear something about iTunes, though, just recently that...
I think you heard it from me. It was iTunes sucks.
No, we've heard that. That's an old news story.
Oh, okay.
We've known that for years. No, they...
Newsflash.
They didn't... I think they've removed the App Store from iTunes. So now it's just movies and games. Or
No, I
movies
think what
and TV and...
what they're doing is with the new iPhones, they're only supporting 64-bit apps. So they're removing all the 32-bit apps from the stores. So if developers haven't updated their apps, you're going to have to find alternatives.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Well, lots going on at Apple. So
There is.
we'll, I'm sure we'll be talking more about the new Apple, the new iPhones as we find out about them, and who knows, maybe they'll start telling us a little bit more in terms of what kind of new accessibility features that the either iOS 11 has or some of the new phones have. So we will keep you posted.
And Rob will buy a HomePod.
I would not buy a HomePod.
Well, you still haven't bought a Google Home.
I would buy a Google Home, but not a.
Supposedly Amazon's coming up with a new speaker too. Another better speaker on the
really?
Amazon Echo. Yeah.
Really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
We'll keep you posted on that too. We're going to keep you posted on everything. Just stay tuned to us, and we will be your complete information source.
Really?
Yep. Everything you need to know, just come here. We'll tell you about Hurricane Irma.
Yeah, it's interesting. Harvey got a lot more press than Irma did, eh?
Yeah. Well, I think it's you. Obviously, there's a gender gap there.
You figure?
The male hurricanes get all the coverage.
He's so boring by comparison.
Like, I didn't hear much about what happened with Irma in Florida. Harvey was all over the news.
Yeah, Irma went through and clobbered it pretty good, but I don't think it did the kind of damage that it was potentially threatening to do.
Okay.
Although it absolutely devastated a lot of the Caribbean islands.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like it just creamed them. And they're going to be rebuilding for years to come. And there's 2 more hurricanes coming.
Yeah.
So, there's hope that they can get clobbered again. Poor bastards. I mean, geez.
I wonder if real estate is like really cheap now in the Caribbean.
Yeah, but who'd want to buy it?
Me?
Yeah, you get rolled over every other year by a hurricane.
Yeah, but
Because of global warming, these things are getting bigger. They're getting more prevalent, and
I mean, how much expensive is a hut on the beach? I mean, it's probably like $10,000 or something. Whatever, you can rebuild that every year.
yeah, I suppose.
And you could rent it out as a timeshare to people.
An
Make a bunch of
Airbnb.
coin.
And there you go.
What are we doing sitting here?
Not
We need
that you have any sanitation or water running or electricity of any kind.
We need to get our ass down to what is that island? Barbados?
Barbados?
No,
Barbuda.
no,
there was
Barbuda.
Yeah.
We need to get to Barbuda and
Yeah, which is
that's where we need the new guitar.
Say
dungeon.
90% inhabitable.
Oh, is that right?
Inhabitable. Yeah, it's inhabitable.
Yes, that's right.
Today's word, inhabitable.
Inhabitable.
Speculative.
Uninhabitable. There we go.
See, I'm telling you, everybody has that word
That's right.
that trips them up.
Yep.
Joining us today is Mr. Idan Meir, who is the co-founder and CEO of Right Here, which is a accessibility app for people who are visually impaired that enables them to acquire a better orientation in indoor spaces.
Hi, Idan. How are you?
I'm great. Hi, Ryan. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Thank you for joining us today.
Sure, it's my pleasure. Yeah.
Well, you know what? Tell us a little bit about Right Here and how it all got started.
So Right Here is an orientation solution for people who are blind or visually impaired and people with other orientation challenges. We basically turn, just regular indoor environment into accessible environment for people who are blind or visually impaired. The way we do that is with a system, technology that we developed. It basically has three main components. One is our mobile app, which is free for the users, Android and iPhone devices. The second component is our accessible spots. We're using a beacon technology, so it's small, tiny sensors. I'll probably get back to that later. And the third component is an online dashboard for the venue manager or the venue owner to control and edit all the information that later on the users will hear once they'll get to this venue. The whole idea of our company is basically allowing people who are blind or visually impaired to work independently and to access every other place just like anyone else can, independently on a private way and freely, I would say. As for today, we see the world as a little bit blocked. We don't see many people who are blind or visually impaired just going to the mall or going to the university or going to other places, and we ask ourselves, why is that? And then we realize that the physical environment is not that accessible for them. There's a lot going on in the digital space, about WCAG and accessing websites, documents, and so forth. But we had a question about the physical space. We're still humans, right? Not robots yet. So
Yet.
And happily, it's 2017. Technology is here to help. There's a lot of opportunities with technology, and ours just one. Giving the opportunity for a person to know where he is. This is the first thing the app does. Know what is there, know what is it around him, and being able to acquire better orientation and get to go by himself in the venue is important. And this is exactly what we're doing.
So, for example, the system could be incorporated, say, into a mall. Like, GPS technology right now is sort of good, but it's not good enough to really hone in on fine details. So, for example, a blind user who's using their phone to navigate, say, to a mall, the GPS would get them to the mall, but Right Here would then allow that venue to sort of be a lot more specific in terms of orientation.
Correct. So this is exactly the scenario. The outdoor is quite accessible. I would say there are great apps and solutions out there. Blind Square is one of them that allowing a person who is blind or visually impaired to get to go outdoor using GPS. But once they go into an indoor environment, they're kind of, as some of them say, we're blind again.
Right.
So this is a challenge. The main challenge is obviously because there is no GPS is not supported in indoor environments. But there are other technologies, and the iBeacon technology protocol is just one example of that. That's the most advanced as we see it today for this use case. But there are others as well. For us, we realize that till we'll get into a point when it will be, more accurate and more, seamless and with no infrastructure and with all that, optimum vision or optimum fantasy of it. we don't want to wait till then and leave anyone behind until we get to that point in history, basically. So we took the most advanced technology that is currently available, worked on that, developed our own IP with it together with the whole system, and got into great results where actually a blind person or again visually impaired can actually find himself in a venue, whether if it's a mall or if it's a university, a hospital, airport. We have use case already in every sector, and the feedbacks are just amazing. It's finally here, and I believe that in the near future we'll see more and more companies doing that, and the technology will obviously evolve as well.
When did the app launch?
So we launched it. It was January last year, so it's almost 2 years now.
Okay.
We've launched it in Israel. This is where we're located, and in the first year, almost year and a half, we were mostly focused in the Israeli market. It was obviously easier for us to learn and to have it as a beta site for our solution. Most of the focus goes to, we were focusing mostly on the venues, because obviously in the beginning, marketing the solution for users that will later ask, okay, so where is it available? And saying, hey, no place. We had some kind of a chicken and egg, problem. So we decided to focus on the venues. About 6 or 5 months ago, we've reached a critical mass of venues. There were enough shopping malls, enough universities, and so forth that installed the system. So we started to do marketing for to the users audience. We've been surprised to see that we didn't have to wait till that moment, because users has already been on board for even that we had just a few venues, because the demand for that is just is clear, but is huge also. So having our users on board is it's still something that we're working on, but is quietly I would say the easiest part of the whole picture. Having more venues on that sometimes it's harder. In other cases it's easier. But this is our main focus now, on having the whole system working, or having this whole vision coming into life, not just in the Israeli market but also in the U.S. It's obviously a challenge, but we believe we'll be able to do that. In Israel, by the way, there are almost 250 venues that are already accessible with the system. Again, among them, the largest universities, largest shopping malls, hospitals, some of the airports, and so forth. So being able to do what we've done here in Israel and the US is obviously our goal. And this is exactly where we're putting our focus these days.
So if we had a mall that was interested in doing something like this, what is the process that the mall has to go through?
So the process usually goes where we ask for the venue layout, the floor plan of the mall. Then we try to understand, based on that, we try to map this layout with our system, which means we're looking for the points of interest in this mall. It could be usually the entrances, the elevators, the restrooms, the information desk, and points of interest in the venue. After we map that, we get to a number, estimation of a number, and then we make our proposal based on that to the specific venue. Once they agree to go for it, so we're sending our installers to the venue. All they have to do is just to stick our accessible spots. It's for those of you who are familiar with this technology, it's self-powered sensors in the size of a matchbox. Basically, it requires no electricity. So there is no outlets needed around. It requires no GPS, of course, as we mentioned, no Wi-Fi, basically nothing, just a goodwill of the venue to be accessible. Installing this accessible spot on the wall or on the ceiling, and there you go. The information is there. We do that through our online dashboard. It can also be always managed and added if needed, if there is reconstruction and so forth. And that's basically the process. Another thing maybe to mention here is that the whole content that later on the user will hear can be translated to different languages. So we're not talking only about people who are blind or visually impaired, although this is the main focus of the product. We're also talking about language barriers in many cases. So again, imagine like an Israeli person, for example, going to a mall in the US and let's say doesn't know English, so he can hear the information in Hebrew, which is obviously very useful.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Well, especially in things like airports, especially, you want to be really sure that it's as international as possible.
Yeah. And by the way, this is something that we didn't thought about in the beginning. We didn't thought it could be a good solution for language barriers. We just thought, hey, we want to have it in more markets, so let's just translate the content. But in one case of actually it was a hotel who teach us this. They said, hey, we have tourists from all over the world, and I believe it could be very useful not just to the blind society, but also for tourists who don't know how to find our dining room in the hotel or so. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there seems to me that there are sort of applications to the technology that extends even beyond accessibility.
Absolutely. Well, the opportunity with the technology here is absolutely endless. I mean, it's if you like, it's some kind of a digital layer upon the physical environment. So we're focusing on accessibility, but the venue and specifically malls, by the way, which we mentioned before, can do a lot more with that in terms of their marketing efforts and so forth. So,
but speaking of that, what kind of range do the sensors have?
So we can configure that for each accessible spot. The maximum is 70 meters. This is the maximum that we're using. This is the maximum of the sensor that we're using. But in most cases, I think, by the way, 70 meters is about 200 feet, if I'm not wrong, radius. But this is the maximum. Usually, in most cases, we configure them to about 10 feet radius. It's just more accurate. It's giving a better experience. And maybe talking about the experience, maybe I'll describe it just for a second.
Sure.
So it all starts basically at home for the user. So once you download the app, again, it's 100% free, Android and iPhone. He can find what places are accessible for him in the area. It could be his mall or whatever it is. Once he chooses to go to one of them, he can click on that, and then it will ask him, how would you like to get there? So you could do that with ordering a cab on like Uber or Lyft. Recently, we've integrated Blind Square to that, so you can go there outdoor with Blind Square or other apps. Once you get to the venue, you'll get a notification that this venue is accessible with Right Here. And basically, from that point, the real value of Right Here is actually come into play. Basically, the first thing that the app will do, it will let the user know where he is. So for example, you are in the main entrance to Westfield Mall, okay?
Right.
Or you are next to the elevators or the second floor or whatever it is. But first is answering the question, where am I? Secondly, the app will let him know what is it here. So for example, the open hours in this mall are from Monday to Friday, or you are in room 205 and the class in this room is mathematics, okay, or psychology, or whatever it is. So where am I and what is it here? This is the two first questions the app answer. And the third one, which is very unique to Right Here, is that no matter where the user is actually pointing with the smartphone, 360 degrees around him, it will let the user know what is it there and what distance, or even how to get there. So again, let's say we're in the main entrance to this mall and we realize what's the open hours. Now we can point with the smartphone, just straight, and it might say the elevators or the food court is in this direction, in 30 feet. Attention, there are stairs after 10 feet heading down, let's say three stairs. Right. And if we point to another direction, it might say the restroom. Everyone looks for the restroom, obviously, in the shopping mall.
Right.
So the restroom is just in front of you, ladies on the left, gentlemen on the right. I can even mention that in some use cases, we even install accessible spot inside the restroom, inside, so it's easier to understand where is the sink, where is the dryer,
Right.
what type of dryer is it, and such information inside the restroom as well. So yeah, again, where am I? What is it here? What is it around me? And the last but not least ability is even calling for local assistant. So if the user still needs someone, for assistant, if it's a mall, it probably will be to the information center. In the hotel, it probably will go to the reception, and so forth. So it's all about providing independence, but still, if the user needs someone for assistance, he can also have it.
Now, in terms of the venues themselves, like once the system is installed, is it pretty easy for them to go in and configure all the different sensors? Like, is there sort of like a back end that they go in and they can put in whatever descriptions they want?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. This is actually, we are very, very proud of our online dashboard. I think it's just the state of the art for this, for our niche. The venue owner can log in from wherever, from his smartphone, from his tablet, from his, this PC, laptop, wherever. It's an online portal where he can log in with his username and password. There he can find all the accessible spots in the venue. You can even see picture of where exactly are they located, where exactly are they installed. He can configure the ranges. He can rewrite the content. So if, let's say, there is a reconstruction and something has changed, the restrooms are now just the ladies and the gentlemen has been changed, as I said before, so you can do that from there. It can also ask for reports of how many people actually went through that accessible spot and actually used this accessibility service. So yeah, this is all can be done remotely. And maybe I would add another thing about it is that it's right here we consider this whole solution as a perspective as a ramp for the blind, if you like. So ramp for wheelchairs are here for years. It's also technology. It's very old and low tech technology, but it's technology that enable a wheelchair to access the venue. We consider right here exactly the same thing for people who are blind or visually impaired or with orientation challenges, because without it, the environment is just blocked.
Right.
So being able to track how many use your ramp, I think it's very innovative. And having the ease of installing it in your venue, there is no pre-infrastructure, there's almost no maintenance needed for that as well. I think it's just the right thing to do, and we encourage more and more venues to do that and join this, as we call it, revolution.
And is it fairly easy in terms of, say, adding more sensors to a system that's already in place? If, say, they expand or they get a new store that they want to add, is that just pretty easy? It's just a matter of plugging in a new sensor?
Absolutely. And again, the reason for that is because the whole concept is about orientation rather than navigation. So we're locating the accessible spots in points of interest. So they not depend on each other. We have small moms and pop shops that have only one, for example, and we have shopping malls that have hundreds. So it doesn't really matter because the accessible spots are not depends on each other, unlike with navigation solutions. And maybe just to clarify a little bit on this definition, when talking about navigation, is all about taking the user from point A to point B. It's like a step-by-step experience. When talking about orientation, it's just knowing where you are in the main intersection or in the main points of interest. And knowing where you are, what is it here? The layer of information, that is relevant for you to just feel free to choose where you want to go, just like any other people would probably do there. So we're not like kind of isolating you with some kind of go there and then turn left and then turn right and you didn't know where you're going and what is it along the way. We're just letting you know each time you pass an accessible spot, where are you, what is it here, what is around you, and so forth.
Now, have you come into contact with, say, a venue that was using the system in a way that that surprised even you guys?
So yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, the first one, as I said before, was in the hotel. This hotel that we, teach us about the language barriers that we actually help and solve. And this is why we add more languages into the system, and we're keeping adding more all the time. Another, advantage that we didn't thought is that big, but we've realized it along the way is this, the seamless experience of installing the system. In other cases, or thinking about Wi-Fi infrastructure, sometimes you kind of need to have the outlet ready. You kind of need to exactly taking a lot of things in consideration when deploying routers and so forth. With our technology, it's very seamless. There is just a sticker, again, in the size of a matchbox. It's almost invisible, I would say, which is something we didn't take those advantages as that important. So it's something that we've learned during, along the way. When meeting, another thing that happened, and it probably will happen all the time, is that, the interaction with their users is, teaching us a lot. We've been changing the app over and over again in the past year and a half, and we probably will continue to do that because the feedback are just coming. And one of the reasons we called ourselves the company Right Here is because it's some kind of a intern reminder that the right thing to do is always to hear the feedback. Us as founders and the team, we're not coming from. None of us is a blind person. We do have some of the engineers that work with us are blind and visually impaired, but the core team of the executives are not blind or visually impaired. And therefore, we understand that the best approach, the best way to go is just by understanding and listening to this audience and giving them what they, looking for. This is also, by the way, one of the reasons we decided to have this, whole solution 100%, free for the users and not charging them not even 1 cent. Even that, in the beginning, it was something that we didn't know how to approach. And some of the venues told us, hey, we're okay with having this system, but we don't think we need to pay for that. Maybe the user will do that. Yeah, it's as ridiculous as it might sound, but we say, hey, we don't think that our users need to pay for the world to be accessible.
Right.
It's our responsibility as society, and therefore we're charging only the venues, and it's 100% for the users.
I'm curious about how the information actually gets delivered and how you do the multilingual aspect of it. So are the messages that are being delivered, are they text based or are they synthetic speech? How does that part work?
Yeah, so we're using a text-to-speech engine, which is it's part of it is obviously in the app, but the other part is in the online dashboard. So the venue owner. By the way, usually we do that for them in the setup, but they can also always manage that afterwards. But let's say the venue owner can write the content in text in one language or in a few languages, and later on it will be changed into a speech for the user. We do not do automated translation. So if the venue owner decided to write the content in English, it will be only in English. We won't do automated translation because we just don't trust enough on the Google Translate and other services that are very good but not good enough when it comes to actually directing a blind person in a venue. So we give the ability for the venue owner to translate it with professional translators if we choose to have this experience not just for one language, but for few. So it's all been done through the dashboard.
And how long was the development process?
It's hard to say because we're, for us, we think it's just the beginning. Like we're still, I believe we're still in the development process. I'm not sure when we end, but to get things off the ground, I think it took us about half a year or so. For the first version of the app. Obviously, the dashboard has been changed afterwards as well. But yeah, it took us about half a year just to take the first versions. So yeah.
And given that the system has all these different components that need to work together, in order to sort of work seamlessly, in the back end, in the development process, which part of that was the most challenging for you guys to really figure out?
I think it was, the beacon technology. Since the beacon technology is relatively new, I think it's about 3 or 4 years, just available for developers. Since it was very new, so we had no, references or different use cases that we could rely on. We had to make a lot of tests ourselves. We had to make a lot of progress internally and to learn it from the ground up. And it's been evolving very quick in the beginning. Just like, any other technology, it's evolving very quick. So I think one of the main challenges, the main challenge was about the beacon technology, knowing exactly what to interfere with what, how to configure the accessible spots in a way that it would be accurate on one hand, but secondly also in a wide enough range so it will be relevant for the use case. Controlling the lifespan of the batteries inside, because obviously it's a concern for the venues.
Right.
We in the beginning we could promise the venues it will last for a year. This day we're promising from 3 years to 4 years. And it will be evolving all the time. I believe that by the end of this year or the very beginning of next year, we'll probably start promise 5 years of lifespan of the battery. So yeah, I think the beacon technology, that was the main challenge.
And what do you guys have planned for the future for the app?
So, well, for what I can say, I mean, there are some of the developments on the roadmap, unfortunately, I cannot share at the moment. But one thing I can say is that we're looking to integrate this great experience, not just with the known or the popular iPhone and Android devices, but with also other devices that can be supported with that and give a better experience. In the end of the day, we believe that as more devices will be able to integrate the right here technology inside and support accessible environments, the better. Because some of the users will probably prefer this device, others will prefer another one. So having the right here app working in many different devices is something that we're currently putting a lot of attention to and working on. In terms of features, unfortunately, I just cannot.
Yeah, fair enough.
No, come on, we're all friends here.
We won't tell anybody. No, we it's funny. We always ask people that, and they always have the same answers. Like, well, we can't really
tell you that.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So one of the questions I have is, do you have a directory of places that have started using the right here sensors?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have it. So first, we have it inside the app. So for those who will install it or already install that, so there is a possibility to see it inside the app, nearby locations. I think it's called the feature nearby, and then you can see a list of all the venues that are accessible with the system, from the one that is close to you to the one that is far away. The second place to find the places that are accessible is on our website. You can actually see the map with all the pins, the right here pins on it. Where is it located? Again, I believe that most of our listeners now are from the U.S., right?
And Canada, yeah.
And Canada. So yeah. So unfortunately, at the moment, there are not many places that are accessible with our system in the U.S. market and in Canada. And if you're listening and you'd like to have some places that are to be accessible with it nearby, so just let them know about us. Let us know about them, so we can make it happen. We do have some references, but still the majority of the venues are currently in Israel. Hopefully, it will be changed by the half or third. I would say third quarter of next year. But we're working really hard on that.
The other question I have is, let's say I have a restaurant I go to frequently, and I want to get them on board with the Right Here app and sensors. Let's say I wanted 2 sensors, one to tell me the main entrance and one to tell me where the washrooms were. What would the costs be involved in doing that?
First, I can tell you that we do have our do-it-yourself kit for small businesses, like restaurants and coffee shops. So in terms of process, it's very simple for them. The installation is usually done by themselves, so it's also reduced the cost. Obviously, when it comes to large venues, we need to send our installers and takes time and all that. So it's another fee they're paying. But for small businesses, they can do it themselves. It's installing 1 or 2 accessible spots. It's not big of a deal. In terms of cost, again, I'm not sure it's the right place to mention that, but I can tell you it's about a couple of hundreds US dollars, I would say. It's very, I would say, cost effective in that term.
Sure.
Is it based on the number of accessibility points that, say, a particular venue wants to place?
Yeah, so basically it's based on 2 main criteria. The first one is the number of accessible spots, and secondly is the subscription. We have 1-year subscription, 5-year subscription, and 10-year subscription. So it depends, how long you'd like the service to be running, and it depends on how many accessible spots you want to have. The number, again, of accessible spots is depends on the size of the venue, as we all understand.
Sure.
But it also depends on the complexity of the venue, and of course on the level of accessibility that the venue owner want to have.
Right.
So again, as I said before, we truly consider the system just like a ramp for wheelchair. I think a couple of hundreds. Let's just say that it's way cheaper than a ramp in any scale. Like it's not even comparable. So.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm curious about how you do the directional part of it.
The directional part is part of it is our technology, but part of it is also combining 2 different technologies. So one is the beacons, as you are already know, but the other one is the compass of the smartphone device. So using both of them together with a few other tricks, I would say that we happen to make, we're able to actually direct you in a very accurate way. So yeah.
So what you're saying is we need to get one and play with it.
Yeah, and I'd love to send you one. I'd love to send you one, so you get better understanding on that. Yeah, I wanted to say before, for our listeners out there, there's two things that are important for me to say to our listeners. The first one is that I welcome you to download the app. It's 100% free, and give us your feedback, whatever it is, from the user experience through the other things that concerns that you might have, or ideas you might have on anything like that. We're welcome you to talk to us. We usually said that our way to get to a world that is accessible for the blind and visually impaired, our way to get there is by working together. And when we say working together, we mean, we're talking about, having our users active and, and helping us, bring this vision. And working together means working with the organizations, the nonprofit organizations, as well as with companies who actually install that eventually. So again, if users are listening to me now, I encourage you to download and send us your feedback. You can also do that personally to me. My email is idan@right-here.com. I guess it probably will be somewhere near the podcast somewhere. And the second thing is that if you know a local, it could be local restaurant, just like I think Rob said that.
Yep.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, Ryan.
Yeah.
So just like Rob said, if you know some local restaurant or a shopping mall owner or the accessibility coordinator in your university, whatever it is, let him know about us so they can at least consider, at least evaluate whether if it's relevant for them or not. This is our only way to actually being able to access this the world or the venues to you guys. So
And we'll make sure that we link to both the website as well as the app in our show notes. But yeah, again, for anybody who's listening who is interested, it's right dash and then here as in hearing, HEAR.
Exactly. Yeah. We're also very active, by the way, on Twitter, Facebook. We're answering all the time. And we have lots of videos on YouTube of how to use that, how to install it, and everything involved with that.
Idan, thanks so much for joining us and taking time out of your day. And it's an incredible system, and I'm jazzed about it.
Oh, amen for that. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It was really pleasure. And if you look for us next time, so we'll be right here.
You got it. We'll touch base again soon. All right. Thanks, Idan.
All right. Thank you.
Wheeling and dealing.
Yeah. Well, you know what? When I first heard about this technology, I didn't realize it was directional. Because to me, that's critical for any kind of system like this. And the fact that it's wireless and doesn't require the sensors to be attached to power.
Well, with 3-year battery, that's amazing.
Yeah. That's game-changing technology in terms of this type of technology.
Well, you walk into a mall, you'll have the points of interest or wherever the spots are. Move your phone to the left, it'll tell you the store, London Drugs.
Yeah.
Walk down further, it'll tell you what's on your right, Starbucks.
Yeah.
That's pretty game changing.
But even within, like yes, a mall venue could use it, but you could also sort of go even farther down, and a store could use it. So you could mark shelves and sections,
Aisles.
of a grocery store.
Home Depot.
Yep, Home Depot. Like there's a lot of applications for it.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The multilingual thing is really interesting too, because you think about a town like Vancouver where we've got so many different languages being spoken. There's always the uproar when we've heard it most recently with stores in Richmond where they put up Chinese only signs. Well, this gives them an option to have multilingual information being delivered to their customers as well.
Yeah.
I like the usage case of a hotel. There's tons of hotels that could use this technology, but boy, this is the sort of thing that a university like UBC could buy onto in a huge way, because it's always been an access issue for them, particularly with their older buildings that are, they're kind of cramped and nothing's really labeled particularly well for people with visual impairments. So people are getting to the door, but they're not getting much farther,
right?
Independently. So, yeah, this is slicker than goose poop on a door handle, as Rick would say.
Well, and I think too, you keep hearing about iBeacons and Apple getting into beacons and Google talking possibly beacons. We're getting into these proprietary format wars again, and you're going to have multiple apps on your device to just be able to find your way around something. Yes, this is proprietary as well, but it sounds like it's already in place. It's already functional. It's got a lot of flexibility and can grow and adapt with the store.
Yeah. They're applying accessibility standards that have been developed by third parties,
right.
Which Google looks like they're probably going to buy into as well, which would be cool. All it would take would be for them to have their app also recognize iBeacons and Google beacons.
Yeah.
And, it would be a absolute killer.
But I also get the sense that wearables seem to be the new darling, and so everybody's sort of investing resources into wearable tech, and maybe they've just kind of forgotten about this technology that's now here and it's ready to go.
Yeah,
but that's awesome. Well, who knows? Who knows what the future will bring? All right. Well, Ray Ryan,
Rob,
where can people find us?
www.atbanter.com.
They can also email us if they so desire at atbanterpodcast@gmail.com.
Ooh, and did you know we're also on social media?
We are?
We are, yeah.
What?
Yes. As it turns out, apparently we have a presence at Facebook.
Okay.
We also have a presence at Twitter. Instagram,
check.
YouTube,
YouTube, check.
Yeah. Pinterest.
Man,
No.
weird.
No Pinterest.
No Pinterest.
Google Plus.
Not anymore.
Oh boy.
No.
Jeez.
Although if someone Googled it, they could probably bring up the old page, but I haven't actually logged into our Google Plus account.
Yeah, I wouldn't
for
worry
like
about it.
A long time.
I think the people who use Google Plus all work at Google.
Yeah, pretty much, right? Yeah, damn. All those people who are on MySpace and switched to Google Plus are very sad right now, but
Oh well.
yep. All right, well, that's going to about do it for us then this week.
Well, hold on.
Oh, wait, no, it's not. What else you got for us, Steve?
I think we should put that call out again. Send us letters, send us your ideas, send us your thoughts. You know, we're all the way up here in the wilds of Canada and we're lonely. So, you know, write us.
Haiku, anything.
Yeah, especially haiku. We love haiku.
Mm-hmm. All right, everybody, thanks for listening, and we will see you all next week.
This podcast has been brought to you by Canadian Assistive Technology, providing low vision and blindness solutions across Canada. Find us online at www.canasstech.com. That's CANASSTECH.com. Or call us toll free at 1-844-795-8324. For all your assistive technology servicing needs, call Chaos Technical Services at 778-847-6840 or find them online at chaostechnicalservices.com. Music provided by bensound.com.